Graphing linear inequalities. So here we're being asked to graph these four, and we also want to write them in interval notation. So we're going to have to choose whether we want to use dots, a closed dot, or an open dot, or if we want to use the squared off brackets or the round parentheses. So we have these 6 options. Now, the dots are used on one type of graph, and the parentheses are used on a different type of graph. You don't mix them in together. But you have your choice of which one you want to use. So for the first problem there, I can choose whether I want to use the dots or the parentheses and brackets. So the problem itself is already solved. There's no work to be done, no adding, no subtracting, or anything like that to be done to solve that. All I have to do is take that from there and put it onto my graph. So I'm going to find 0, and I'm going to find -2. Next thing I have to do is figure out which direction do I want my line to go. Do I want it to go to the left or to the right? So I'm going to compare that -2 and say, is that less than 0? So same thing, just replace the letter with a 0. Is that a true statement? So that is telling me I want to go in the direction of 0. So I want to go in that direction. Then the next thing I have to look for is, does it have an equal to part on it? And no, it does not. So that is telling me that I want to use my open dot. And if you are a messy writer type person and you can't tell for sure whether that's an open or a closed dot there, write it out, open dot, closed dot, just so that your teacher, me, can figure out what you're trying to do there. The other option was the parentheses or brackets. So again, I find 0, I find -2, and I find that the line is supposed to go off in that same direction. So that's the same no matter which method you're using, dots or parentheses. And then I look for, do I have an equal to part there? No, I do not. So I'm going to use my round parentheses. The round parentheses tell you it does not equal. The open dot tells you does not equal. The closed dot and the squared off brackets, those mean do equal. So here I did not have an equal to part, so it's the round parentheses, open dot. The next thing I have to do is write it in interval notation. This way of drawing my graph with the parentheses and brackets, that is very helpful when trying to figure out interval notation. Because when I see this, my first thing I see is my -2, and it has the parentheses there. I can just copy that down, just as it is. And then I look for where does it stop. It goes all the way up and keeps going and keeps going and goes. So it goes up to infinity. Infinity always gets the round parentheses. So there is that problem done. Next problem. We have -5 is greater than or equal to x. So I find my 0. I find my -5. -5. I'm going to do this both ways. So 0 and -5. Then I have to compare that to 0 or some other number to see which direction, left or right. So -5 greater than or equal to, same thing as what's written there. Compare that to 0. I'm asking that. -5 is not greater than 0 and is not equal to 0. So no. So that's telling me then I have to go in the opposite direction. Next thing I have to do is figure out dot, open or closed. It has the equal to part on it right there. So that tells me I have a closed dot. So part of that is the same thing. I know that I go out in this direction. Next I have to figure out, do I want the round or square? Round parentheses or square brackets. So because it does have the equal to part on there, it is going to be squared. And I should make that actually at -5. I'm just a little hesitant about putting my red marker on my blue mark and making my red marker blue. So, there. And that's how it's supposed to look. Kind of. I'm a sloppy artist. So these two are done, almost. One more thing I have to do here. Write it in interval notation. It was already in inequality notation. First time I see it is at -infinity. Infinity, whether it's positive or negative, always gets the round parentheses. Last time I see it is at -5. And that is the sloppiest comma I have ever written in my life, I think. Okay. And it had the squared off bracket there. So that is my answer. These are single-sided. They have only one side to them. The other side is the arrow, the infinity. The next two are double-sided. They have a number on each side of x. So let's get to them. So we're going to find 0, we find -1, and we find 3. And again, I'm doing it both ways, both with the dots and with the parentheses. So these are two separate graphs. You do not do both of them for the same answer. Now, because this is double-sided, I know that my line is going to go from the one number to the other number and stop. -1, no equal to, +3, no equal to. So from there to there. It does not equal, so it's an open dot for both of them. For the brackets versus parentheses, it does not equal, so it gets the parentheses. Does not equal, so it gets the parentheses. This is -1, that is 3. And the line goes from one to the other. So double-sided are kind of easy because you're already given your numbers. You don't have to decide parentheses, or not parentheses, you don't have to decide, does it go to infinity in that direction, or does it go to infinity in this direction? You know that it goes from this number to that number. And I have to write it in interval notation. So that's also kind of given to us when we do the parentheses here. So we see the -1 has the parentheses, comma, 3 also has the parentheses. Interval notation is done. Notice that the interval notation looks a lot like an ordered pair. You have to be careful of understanding, even though this looks exactly the same as an ordered pair, this is not an ordered pair. This is interval notation. Going to my last problem here. So I have -4, 0, 1, 2, 3, -4, to +2. Here's 2. -4 to +2. Using my dot notation, I see that it does not equal, so that's going to be open. And I see that it does equal there, so that's going to be closed. So I have my open dot here, and I have my closed dot there. And I have the line in between them. Done. Okay. With my parentheses versus brackets, I have the round parentheses, and I have my square brackets. So round here and square there. And the line goes in between them. That graph is done. Writing it in interval notation, I see the round parentheses, the -4, comma, 2, square bracket. And those two problems are done.